Kenya may have wealthy areas with urban cities and safaris, but despite possessing the money to support these areas, more than 35% of Kenyans struggle with poverty, and over 40% of Kenyan youth don't get quality education due to underfunding. Those who attend underfunded schools attend for free, but conditions are poor. Schools house nursery school through 12th grade, accommodating 800 kids in small clay buildings. Here are some videos of kids in nursery school, 4th grade, and 8th grade to give you a glimpse into the classroom.
Odi, odi. Tumekuja kuwasalimia.
Jambo.
Unasema jambo. Si mnasalimiwa. Simameni mseme hatujambo. Hatujambo. Now, sit. Very interesting. Good morning, grade 4.
Good morning, teacher. Welcome.
How are you?
We are fine, thank you, teacher.
Sit.
Thank you, teacher.
Jambo. My name is Nika.
Amesema anaitwa? Nicole. Anaitwa? Nicole. Yani Nicholas kwa ufupi. Nicole, ako grade 8 America. Ametutembelea kuona vitu.
This is grade 8.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Jambo.
Hamjambo.
Underfunding in the school systems of poverty-stricken areas of Kenya deteriorated in 2020 and is only getting worse. Katie Wales, Executive Director of Brighter Children, shares her perspective on the deterioration.
Over the last few decades, it's been going up and down, but ever since COVID, there are more and more kids out of school every year.
The lack of funding is caused by many factors. Two of them are corruption in the government and poor allocation of funds. Corruption in the government has led to ghost schools being funded. Ghost schools are schools that don't exist but get funding from the government, which often means there is corruption. Over time, more than 16 billion shillings have been provided to ghost schools, leaving a deficit in actual schools' funding. This has led to a poor allocation of funds. After funding the ghost schools, the government distributes what is left of the education funds to the real schools, but they do this incompetently. Some schools receive an excessive amount of funding. With these schools receiving too much, that means other schools don't receive nearly enough funding to properly educate their students. The educational underfunding in Kenya has many effects on the schools and the students who attend them. The main result in schools is a lack of resources. The principal of Likuyani Public School in Kenya shares what she would want for her school.
I would choose a story building.
Like a library?
We don't have
Or
a library.
storage.
We don't have. All our lab materials are just stored here. We don't have a lab. We don't have a library, and the compound is small. So if I can get a story building, it can accommodate those. We don't have home science.
Yes.
Practical room. We just store the material here, and then we practice from outside.
Katie Wales, Executive Director of Brighter Children, goes into further depth of what other schools lack.
Okay. So their education in Kenya is technically free if you go to a government school. The issue is that the funding from the government hasn't kept pace at all with how many students there are. So what that means is that classrooms, and you saw this yourself when you visited a government school, like the classrooms are wildly overcrowded. There's never enough teachers. There is not enough textbooks. There is not electricity or internet. Very often the sanitation situation is really bad, like inadequate bathrooms, just really like not okay from a health standard perspective. And then certainly not, there's no science labs or technology resources. And so what this means is that although kids may be able to go to school, the quality of education is just really, really poor. And so these schools become underfunded. And what people don't realize is that's not just about like buildings, but it's actually about, the ability to have learning materials, children having to share textbooks or not even having teachers in their classrooms.
Underfunding also affects students later in life. When students don't get adequate schooling, they don't have enough basic learning to get jobs and other necessities. Because of this, the cycle of poverty keeps moving through more generations, but there are solutions to this. Educational underfunding is a substantial problem, and it will be very hard to eradicate it. While there aren't any solutions to just fix this immediately, there are solutions that can slowly improve educational funding and minimize the effects from the lack of government funds. Schools funded by organizations are beginning to make a difference. I visited Africa last July and had the opportunity to sit down with Margaret Lewis, the founder and president of Village Project Africa, and she shares what inspired her to start a school.
And he asked me to come and see what they were doing. And when I saw those children and those widows, I thought, this is what I want to do the rest of my life. I didn't know we were going to start a school. So we started talking and asking people, what do you need? What do you dream of? What do you hope for? Every single person said, would you please educate our children?
David Otieno Rubin, program director of VPA, shares how these schools help children.
I'd say there are a number of benefits that are capped by students joining Heritage Academy. One, if they're smart kids and disciplined, we are able to talk to our partners like Brother Children and other organizations to help sponsor them. And that way, they are able to use and their potential to the maximum.
The need for these externally financed schools is overwhelming. Students want to go to these schools. This is Hebron's story.
Hebron's another favorite of mine, and he was a child who walked to our school 3 hours one way, so 6 hours round trip, and he did that 3 times, trying to get entrance into our school. And the third time I was there, and I said, a child who does that 3 times, walks all those miles, we're going to take him. So we took him, and now he also is head of the university.
Organizations providing financial aid to schools can allow schools to focus on giving quality education without having to worry about funding problems. An example of this is the organization Brighter Children. Brighter Children invest in educational entrepreneurs who are shaping and scaling schools in the most impoverished communities to deliver quality primary education to vulnerable children. One of their schools is in Makutano, Kenya. Katie Wales, Executive Director of Brighter Children, explains how Brighter Children helps and the benefits their help has provided.
We talk about providing children with access to education and the way that can impact their life. But what we see over time is that it actually has a much, much larger effect. And that is that it economically empowers their families and then therefore their entire communities. So an example of that would be we have lots of children who are the first time learners in their family. And so they're from families who really have no education, no exposure to numeracy or literacy. And they end up, going through primary school, often secondary school, sometimes on to university, and earning 3, 4, 5, 10 times what their families ever did, and actually supporting their families. So that money that stays in the community, it empowers the entire community. It completely changes the child and then the family and the community. So there's a really big ripple effect.
As you have learned, the underfunding of education in Kenya is a real problem, but there are ways to overcome this. If you are interested in supporting education in Kenya, you can consider donating to Village Project Africa through brighterchildren.org, where 100% of public donations go directly to the school. A very special thanks goes to Katie Wills, Brighter Children Executive Director and President, Margaret Lewis, Village Project Africa Founder and President, Davis Otenya Rubin, VPA Program Director, Noah Butchwa, VPA Head Teacher of Primary and Junior Secondary Schools, and Susan Elliott Bokasi, Brighter Children Board Member.